Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum, and welcome to Surviving Romance. Here I am now, talking to all of you. Um, this before we get underway, before anything crazy happens, where I start talking about this particular subject. Let me go ahead and give a couple of shout outs right now. Hang on just a second. I know what I'm doing. All right. Let me give a shout out to Isolationist Network and a lady friend of his who's actually in studio right now with them. Goes by Hell Girl. They kind of boosted my morale for this particular video. Uh, you'll have to excuse me. I know the camera's right there, but over here is the microphone, so I'm kind of working back and forth. It's weird. But I want to give a shout out to those two people. They were very kind enough to kind of, help me build up a little courage for this. And let me say right now, I do appreciate them very much. I have two chat boxes open right now, so feel free to leave any positive comments that you have. Also, I want to give a special shout out to Zombie Girl, who earlier in last week, I think it was, she kind of gave me the inspiration to do this video. And Princess Faye and I talked about this at great length. And oh, yeah, Zombie Queen. She was kind enough to, kind of inspire me to do this video. So special shout out to all those wonderful people, including Badass Matt and uh, and Raider Nation Sam. There's so many of you in the gaming community since I've gotten involved with retro gaming that have been kind enough to kind of accept me into the fold, just a goofy old hot rodder like myself. Uh, so thank you all so very much from the bottom of my heart. All right, let's get underway. All right, guys, let's be honest. We have two stories, okay, to tell. We have two stories that we tell, and those two stories are uh, the, the the girl that broke our heart and the one that got away. We all have those stories, okay. And that being said, I am no exception to that rule. I have both stories, just like everybody else, okay. Um, all that being said, hang on here. Ooh, there we go. All that being said, let's not beat around the bush, okay? For those who do not know, maybe some of you do know, okay? Uh, I'm a silver member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, normally when I mention AA, I usually have my shades on, but we're not going to talk a whole lot about AA. The main thing that you need to know is before I got sober, there was actually this wonderful woman that I met, and we'll just use her first name is Tanya. And what's interesting about Tanya is that I of course I met her before I got sober, and she was having a lot of marriage problems and things like that. Of course, I was having a lot of relationship problems at that time myself. All that being said, what ended up happening was my relationship fell apart and came home to an empty apartment. You've all heard that story, or you can view that story on the Prince Magnum channel anytime you like. Um, that's a story all in itself, and maybe sometime I'll tell it again on live stream. Um, so, what ends up happening is, you know, um, so hard to talk about this story. Um, I come home to the empty apartment, go on a 3-day bender, and at the end of it all, I'm going to commit suicide. And, I've been friends with Tanya for a while. She was actually in my little, my close group of friends that I worked with. Um, that being said, pretty much when my fiance had left me, and I came home to the empty apartment. Pretty much everyone had figured it. I was going to drink myself to death, commit suicide, and they were about right. After the 3 day bender, like I said, I come home to, I'm sitting on my couch, hungover, and this is the end for me. I take a loaded 357 Magnum, hence the name Prince Magnum. You see where that goes actually. And I load it up, and I'm getting ready to end it all. And Tanya calls me. I mean, the phone rings, and I jumped and almost pulled the trigger, anyways. But when Tanya calls, basically it was Tanya. I answered the phone. I don't know why I answered the phone. And when I did answer said phone, I'm like, she asked, what are you doing? I said, I'm sitting here on the couch. What are you really doing? And I told her, I confessed, that I was going to end it all. She proceeded to do what any good non-alcoholic friend does. And she chewed me out for a good half hour. And then she talked me into going to get help. And I went into outpatient treatment and ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous. Real quick, for anyone who's watching, February 7th, 2006 was my first day of sobriety. So every February 7th is another year of continuous sobriety. As of this year, it's been 13 years since my last drink or drug. So thank you very much for anybody who's watching. Man, that's still hard to talk about this story. Hang on. That's why I'm kind of shaky. Normally, anybody who's ever heard me talk knows that I'm not this shaky. Okay. Good drink of coffee, and let's talk. All right. All right. What happened was, in the process of this, I go to my first AA meeting, and I'm trying to get sober and everything. And Tanya was right there. She was right there with me. And when people would say, "Oh, he's just playing a game there. He's just playing around. He's not for real," she would stand up for me. Okay, she was the one that would tell people, "Hey, he's, he really is trying." And she was my only supporter outside of an AA meeting. You got to remember, even for my family, they really didn't. They had even given up hope on me. So I was pretty much on my own, unless I was at an AA meeting. So Tanya was the only one who supported me outside of the program. When I started working the steps, she was right there with me, and things like that. And so it was really, she was, right there, and I was keeping her up to date. She watched me make 1 month sober, and I will tell you, within 3 days. Well, come here, Galaxy. Come here. Come here. My black cat, Galaxy. She's wanting attention. But anyhow, within a couple of days of me getting sober, actually within the first week, I started going through withdrawals. For the record, I actually went through withdrawals for off and on for about 6 months of sobriety. For some reason, Native Americans and their physiology just do not do well when it comes to alcohol. That's why I think one of the words in the old Native American languages, one of the words that comes, when it's translated to English, is fire water. I don't know. It's something to think about. So for me, she was the one that helped me when I went through withdrawals. And there were some people that didn't fully understand what I was experiencing. And I remember several times my head would be on her shoulder and I would be crying because of the pain that I was in. And I would be sitting there, saying, "I just want another drink to make the pain go away." She's like, "I'm not going to let you do that. You don't, we don't want, I don't want to see you go through this again. So let's get you through this." And, so it was, she was right there. And within the first, I would say 3 weeks, actually, no, 2 weeks of my sobriety, I began developing feelings for Tanya. And it took by the third week, I realized I was actually falling in love with her. I'm single. She's getting ready to go through a divorce. And she started dating. She started dating my best friend at the time. That's why I didn't say anything. Uh, you know, um, so after all of that, um, you know, realizing that she's with my friend, she's going through, and even though she's going through a divorce, she's with my friend. I wasn't going to say anything, so I kind of kept it to myself. Well, about the time, see, I got through my third step, and I got through my third step. Jam and John's right next to me doing a little production work, um, and um, you know, my first sponsor, Sober Man, tells me, he at first I started to kind of jerk around with my fourth step, but then he he said the right words. I thought you were willing to go to any lengths to get this, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, I know, you know. So um I I decided I was going to sit down and get to work. Here we go. This is my hi. Say hi, everyone, Galaxy. Oh, yeah. Just take a moment. There we go. Take a moment. I could use some kitty cat cuddles. This is hard. um. All right. Um. And I don't know why, but it's a Tuesday now. I'm over a month sober. I'm coming up on a month and a half. I guess you could say I'm creeping up on that 2 month marker. Um. And I know I'm going to sit down and start my fourth step. And I decided before I was going to do that, I was going to give Tanya a call. So I gave her a call, and we started. I started telling her before I sit down and do my fourth step, I wanted her to know how I felt about her, and I really started telling her, that things like people talk about living angels everywhere. I believe that she was one. I honestly felt envious that that I that how do I put it? Something to the effect of, uh, I honestly think the world needs to be envious because I knew her and they didn't. Um, that that I owed her everything. That my kids uh, can be thankful that she saved my life and things like that. And she's like, no one has ever said anything like this to me. I said, well, I'm saying it. You mean the world to me. I don't think you'll ever know how much you truly mean. And so it was like that. I didn't quite tell her I was in love with her, but I guess you could say I kind of did, even though I didn't actually say the words. Um, well, that was on a Tuesday, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of skip Wednesday. Wednesday, uh, we'll kind of leave towards the end of the video. There's still some mysteries about this whole thing. Mysteries that have yet to be solved 13 years later. Um, all of this being said, um, it's Friday and Tanya gets sick and she has to, she's in the hospital and it looks like a nasty case of pneumonia. She was hanging out with my buddy. Like I said, they were dating and, and what ended up happening was she got sick. They hung out Thursday night. Friday night, she calls out of work. She's in the hospital. And all of us on the evening shift, she was such a likable person, clocked out at the end of our shift. and we went over to, to see her. So there was all of the evening shift in the nursing home that I worked in at that time. Um, we were all sitting there in the waiting room, waiting to know when we could see her. And of course, we were told that we wouldn't be able to see her, uh, you until later on. Yeah, well, we wouldn't be able to see her that day. So we all went home for the night. Next day, I had to put in some overtime at work, and in the process of that, I didn't get to go see Tanya because she was able to accept visitors. But she told my buddy that she needed to see me, something important she wanted to talk about, which we'll get to a little bit more about a little bit later in the video. Well, when he calls and tells me I'd just gotten home, I was exhausted, and I basically said, well, all right, I'll go up and I'll talk to her. I had no idea what she wanted to talk to me about. So I actually put on this really nice shirt, did up my hair real nice, like, and you know, I even got out some dress pants and my at that time I actually had some really nice looking, almost like cowboy boots, but they weren't. They were actually some military dress boots from the Czech Republic. I got a thing for military surplus, but it was really nice looking. Too bad those boots are gone. Um, um, so I got all dolled up, went over and bought her a dozen of roses. I was going in to tell her. I was going to tell her how I felt. I was just going to tell her, straight up, I'm in love with you, you know. But as fate would have it, I get to the hospital and I'm getting ready to, I'm ringing in to go back and see her, and her sister, I think it was her older sister, stopped me and said, Prince Magnum, you can't go back. She's in a coma. And I'm like, what? You know, no way. And she says, yeah, Tanya actually died twice. They revived her. She's in a coma. They're, it doesn't look good right now. And at that point, I honestly felt like the ground had fallen out from underneath my feet. That feeling that you get when falling forever and not actually falling. Um, I went into the waiting room that they had for the ICU. So hard to talk about. Um, I go into the waiting room, and I ended up meeting her dad. And he's like, "Who are you?" I told her, I told her dad who I was, and that sort of thing. And he was like, "Oh, right." Then I asked who he was, and he said, "Well, I'm Tanya's dad." And I stood up and said, "I want to shake the hand of the man of the woman, the hand of the man who's the father of the woman who saved my life." And I said, "No matter what happens, I wanted you to know your daughter saved my life." And he's like, "Run that by me again." And I told him my story up to that point, and um, he puts his arm around my shoulder and he says, "If you need anything, just say the word." And I said, "Well, I'm good now." I said, "I appreciate you, being so friendly with me after all the things that I had done before I got sober." And he says, "I don't know what you were like before you got sober." Um, so, you know, the wait was on. We couldn't go back and see her, and I stayed till probably like 4 in the morning. And finally, they pretty well told us that we weren't going to get to see her, um, that night. So I went home and came back in. It's now Monday, um, and oh God, this is so hard to talk about, man. I'm sorry, folks. You'll have to excuse me. This is one of those subjects that even after 13 years, it's still hard to talk about. I come in, it's Monday morning. Give me just a second. All right. Sorry. We had to briefly. I had to briefly step off. My wife gave me a phone call and that sort of thing. Like I say, okay. Like I say, you might want to turn the volume background. Okay. Wife, wife wanted to give me a phone call real quick. Hmm. Hey, how you doing, James? Got to meet this guy a little earlier. Fantastic guy. We're actually telling a story that's kind of a difficult one for me to talk about. But another streamer had inspired me to do it, and I actually spent some time with some people that I met in your stream to, um, to kind of get the courage to do this one. Okay. So we were talking about how it was Monday morning, and I was going into actually, to see how Tanya was doing. And they had said in the middle of the night after I had left, she had passed again and they had revived her. So she had already now died 3 times on the table, and they had revived her a grand total of 3 times by this point. Um, and the family had made the decision that if she was going to go again, um, that um, that they were going to let her go. And I understood because I knew how she felt about that sort of thing. And uh, wow. Again, I apologize. It's awfully hard to talk about this. I talked with her dad, and he's like, this was a tough decision. So I stayed there, and I got to eventually go back and see Tanya with some of us, and we were instructed that if she wanted to let go, that we were supposed to tell her. And I'm like, you know, so all of us friends went back. And like I said, I was already in love with this woman. I had not had a chance to tell her, and I wasn't about to say anything, to her. Basically, she's got all these tubes and everything in her, and my right across the bed on the other side is my buddy who was dating this woman, even though there's still some debate on whether or not that was going to be a thing. Um, I held her hand, and I um, I remember having to be the one who had to have the courage to tell her that we were going to be okay. If she wanted to let go, she could. Um, I was, I, while she was lying there, I gave her a month coin that somehow I'd gotten 2 1 month AA sobriety coins. So I gave her one and said, "You help me get this. Wherever you go, whatever happens, I want you to keep this coin with you." And and then while she was on her deathbed, I right in front of everybody, I told her I promised I was going to be one of those AA heroes that she heard about, one of the winners that she heard, that you hear about. That's so hard to find, especially this day and age. And I promised her I was going to be one of those guys. And I went to work, and because Tanya and a bunch of us, we all worked together. Um, at about 6 o'clock, I'm in the Alzheimer's unit working, and the director of nursing comes back and she says, "Prince Magnum, um, I I have some bad news." It's about 6:30, and she comes back. She says at 6 o'clock, um, Tanya passed away. Um, and this, for me, this is difficult to talk about because, again, she was the one that got me in sober, um, talked me out of suicide. Um, the hardest part of this is that, again, I was in love with her, and I didn't tell her. I didn't tell her in time. I didn't get a chance to tell her. You know, for many of you, you might be asking the question, why am I telling you all this, this hard to talk about story? Um, uh, because I want, especially, I know a lot of women out there love to hear this story. And the reason why that I'm telling everyone this story is because of the simple fact that true, love doesn't really exist. It really does. And I don't want anyone to ever feel sorry for me for this story because so far the story does have a happy ending. I am still sober. 13 years later, I am still sober long after Tanya has passed. And that's why I'm here right now telling all of you that this is a real thing. So if you are out there and you're looking for that woman to fall in love with, or maybe you're a woman and you're looking for that man, this sort of love does exist. I know so because I'm a happily married man today. I did eventually find a woman to settle down, get married to. Um, my wife, Princess Faye, the whole series, Surviving Romance, is all about her at the same time showing men how to keep the romance alive and well in a relationship because you can do it. It is possible. Um, so that's why I'm saying what I'm saying right now. No games, no nothing, just me looking at the camera, right, like such, and at the microphone too, because it's kind of goofy like that, telling you that this is a thing. Now, while I'm getting ready to talk about some great mysteries that are still left 13 years later, feel free to ask questions about this. You know, don't, no matter how upset I get, It's okay. All right. Be, you know, don't be afraid to ask me those questions. Okay. And from the bottom of my heart, I'm perfectly okay sharing this story with every last one of you. That's why I'm live right now doing this. And again, I want to thank my partner, Mr. Sketch Stars himself, Jammin' John, for setting up the stream and letting me get underway and do this sort of thing. There you go. There's that ad. Be sure to take a look at all of the stuff that we got going on. Yes, indeedy. Right. Mm. And of course, um, be sure to, if you haven't yet, be sure to check out the Prince Magnum channel. Again, uh, games uh, amazing streamer, just wonderful personality. I just happened to have, I was kind of looking for people to kind of hang with some downtime, and this guy was awesome. Got to meet his family of people that follow him, and just a fantastic gentleman, hands down, bar none. So definitely check him out, and don't forget to check out my partner too. I mean, gosh dang it, I can't say enough good about him. Okay, uh, the oh yes, Sketch Squad TV. Everybody knows that Prince Magnum, is affiliated with Sketch Squad TV. Come on, that's kind of it goes together like eggs and bacon, brother. Oh man, like death and tax, corruption in politics. Anyhow, uh, enemas and craft. Anyhow, uh, anyhow. Oh man, here are the mysteries that are still left over from that time. Um, that Wednesday, Tanya was with the director of nursing, Miss Cat, we'll say Cat, and she says she was talking about dating my buddy, and she says I think I made a mistake in my choice. I think there's someone different I'm supposed to be with, and that was a big debate. That's been a big debate. A lot of women say at that point because the conversation that happened on the Tuesday that she knew how I felt. And we're thinking that she wanted to see me on that Saturday because she knew what I was going to say. But again, fate stepped in and that sort of thing. So, that's the debate. That's one of the major debates. And since she did ask to speak with me, I don't know what she wanted to say to me. So we are, so those are the two debates. Did she actually know, and what did she want to say to me? Um, so that's the ongoing debate. So again, I want to give a special thanks to a lot of you out there that inspired me to do this video again. I've done this a couple of times before on camera. Well, one of them I couldn't even go on camera, and here I am, been choking back tears this whole time. Um, you know, and here I'm going on camera telling the story again, and again, I'm not telling. I want you all to understand from the bottom of my heart when I tell you that this is a real deal, that sort of thing. Love does exist, okay? And if it had not been for Tanya, I wouldn't have known what real love looked like in sobriety. Um, so I wouldn't be with Princess Faye. It wouldn't be what it is today. Yeah, we have our moments. Um, but again, that's every couple, Um, that's, we even have big blow up arguments every now and again, and we come out of it just fine, you know. But again, if it hadn't been for Tanya, I wouldn't be married today. I wouldn't know what real love looks like. So, there you have it, folks. I mean, as deep as it gets, I don't know how deep you would want it, but that's as deep as it can get. Um, every I try to every year. I haven't done it in a while, but I try to every year on my sobriety birthday. I go out to Tanya's gravesite and I leave another coin. And even Princess Faye now, even well, she even left a letter at Tanya's grave, um, thanking her for saving me. So there you have it. I mean, so again, this story does have a it does have a happy ending. It just took a lot of pain to get to that point. So, um, that's where we're at in all of this. So, I hope all of you get something out of this story. Normally, I'm a little more well spoken than this. I speak a lot more, um, I just speak, I do, uh, except in moments like this when you have to get me on camera and get me to express emotions like this. It's very difficult, you know. So uh, there you have it. I mean, wow, that's hard, you know. Dang, man. All right. Uh, before I don't know if anybody has any questions. I think I'm just hi and listen to what I had to say. Again, it's this is what it's all about. You know, sharing what I have so all of you can find happiness. And I'm finding happiness without a drink or a drug. And I'm glad to be able to share that with all of you, whether it's with hot rods, whether it's in romance, whether it's you know it's sharing retro video games with you guys. This is what it's all about. And from time to time, we got to touch on this horrible stuff from time to time. And, because it took what it took for me, Prince Magnum, to get where I am today. If I hadn't gone through it, I wouldn't be where I am today. So, now, some of you ladies might out there right now might be asking the question, Prince Magnum, what about the one that got away? That's another story for another time, and I'm probably have to get Princess Faye Ruse permission to tell that story. So if you guys want, start leaving the messages, the comments, and kind of you know see if she'll follow up on that. Real quick, I noticed that we have a total of 5 people in chat right now. Again, feel free to ask questions about this if you'd like, or if you got any other questions that are just on your mind, go right on ahead. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad you're back. I was giving you a shout out during this hard to tell story. I gave you a big shout out, and again, I want to thank you for when I joined your stream earlier. Uh, you know, I was kind of looking for the strength to do this to do this talk, and sharing my sobriety, sharing this hard story that it was a big hurdle for me to get over, and you know it was a big hurdle for me to get over, and that sort of thing. And a lot of people that were in your stream also helped along. I went into uh, isolationist stream, and him and a few other people boosted me up and got me stoked to do this. You even got to see me have to wipe a few tears away on camera. But that's what this is about: sharing my experiences so all of you can find the same happiness that I have found in sobriety. Whether you struggle with alcoholism or other types of chemical dependency, or you just struggle with life, and if sharing a hard story like this helps you find the strength to find that happiness, hey, I don't mind shedding a few tears for people. That's what, it doesn't bother me. You know, for the record, if it had not been for my friend Tanya, uh, August the 7th of this year, I will be celebrating 40 years of life. I've been on this earth 40 years. Okay. Um, so I'll be 40 years old school hot rodder, still turning wrenches and doing custom cars. And, you know, the Knight Rider was one of my favorite cars of all time. That's why that's on there. But, when you dive into my channel a little bit more, you'll see a lot of stuff with Project Spirit, my 1975 Ford Maverick. And you'll get to know that girl a little bit. Project Spirit's an awesome, awesome ride. But yeah, there's the oh, thank you. Well, I know on my birthday, I just announced it in a video where I will be going back to my old hometown and hot rodding record. Um, and when I go back to my old hometown and do this, I mean, it's going to be kind of a dangerous run, but it'll be well worth it. But that's what it's all about. And I'm hoping that by doing this, that all of you will be inspired to open up your wallets a little bit and donate to the Children's Miracle Network through our affiliate link, extralife.org. We have our own team. We have what do we name it? The Team Maverick. Okay, so you become a member of the Team Maverick. Okay, yeah, we haven't moved everything over to my page yet, but you can check it out through Jam and John's Mr. Sketch Scars on Sketch Squad TV. You'll be able to, there it is. Yes, we have it all linked up right there. Thank you so much. See, without a good person to handle production, I would just be in a bad situation. Let me tell you. Isn't that awesome? Amazing artwork he does. He does banners. So, Games, you need it. It's right there, brother. He can do stuff like this. I mean, he's amazing at it. Kind of his thing. There you go. And there's the link so you can. But 13 years of sobriety is nothing to joke at for me. I think that's about the longest I've ever stayed sober. Anyhow, but again, if it hadn't been for Tanya, I wouldn't be here today. So that's why we're telling this story. Again, thank you all so much for the love and support, from the gaming community, getting into retro video games. And, for the longest time, I guess I get, whenever, and of course, Jam and John and I will be, a little bit later on, we'll be going live doing some retro game. Who knows what we're going to be looking at? I know we've been talking about doing some different games together. Last night we finished off Top Gear for the Super Nintendo, and that was fun. I mean, we pulled that off. It was awesome. Unfortunately, we did have some problems where the volume was way up high and you couldn't hear us talking and we couldn't see the chat. It was a nightmare. See. Unbelievable. We've had a few people come through on this, and I want to thank everyone so much. All right. Again, be sure to check out the affiliate links and use those things and help yourself out there. And be sure to, when you do, let us know so we can, we're going to help you save money, and at the same time, you'll be helping us out. Okay. Along with that, if you get a chance, check out the Patreon account. Patreon.com/Prince Magnum, and check all that stuff out and that sort of thing. You can become a member of the High Mileage Club, not the other. They sound alike, but they're not alike. Reference to the fact that Project Spirit's coming up on 300,000 miles with her original engine. Isn't that awesome? Also, as always, for all of you out there, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is. Just do something with yourself. Remember, idle hands and a creative mind make horrible bedfellows. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet and do something special for them today. And as always, for all of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.